www.thegreatwhitebrotherhood.org.
Rendlesham Forest Incident. In 1980, in a forest, and in nearby fields in England, a number of strange events occurred, some of which have been accurately reported, and some of which are fictitious. We are not accusing anyone involved in the incidents of deliberately lying, but memories can play tricks, and so, what people report today, may not be literal accounts of the actual events. We must also say, that a certain amount of tampering with people's minds took place, by certain secret service groups, in an attempt to fog the story. We will do our best to describe what actually happened, as far as we are able, from information contained in the Akashic record. We must advise anyone who reads, or listens to what we are going to say, that the Akashic record only contains events that concerns true living people. Thus, the Akashic record does not record any event that directly comes from non-living creatures, nor from any machines. If robotic creatures are involved, the Akashic record would not record their thoughts or actions, except, as seen through the eyes of humans. Nor does the Akashic record retain any information from a machine, above and beyond what is observed and experienced, from a human interacting with that machine. So, although we can report what humans saw, or thought they saw, we cannot give the other half of the story, which would be what the Ebens thought of the events, nor what the machines, UFOs, reaction to the story was. This, obviously, causes us to be cautious, as to what we say. We are not going to relate what the various participants have put on record, because anyone who is interested in the story, can find virtually all of what people involved saw, or thought they saw, from the internet. We do not need to waste your time and hours, reporting the story, which took place over a number of nights. We will assume, that you are familiar with the story. Before we begin, we will say, however, that the air bases housed, secretly, a large number of atomic weapons, which was not strictly legal, in terms of the Anglo-American treaties of the time, so, the people in charge of the bases, were very keen to keep the truth about the bases, away from any prying eyes. We will also say, that there were a large number of security personnel on the bases, whose major role was to ensure that no information about the atomic missiles leaked to the public. One can imagine, that the reaction of the public, to the fact that there were enough nuclear weapons stored on the bases to destroy a large portion of England, if they were sabotaged and thus exploded, would have been less than enthusiastic, if the secret was revealed. So, security was paramount, in the eyes of those controlling the bases. This is an important part of the story, because, once it was thought that a UFO was inspecting one of the bases, and its weapons, and it was realized that publicity concerning the UFO, and subsequent events, would inevitably leak out to newspapers, questions would be raised, as to why the UFO was concerned with that base. This was a danger, because, it would be almost inevitable that the truth concerning the large number of atomic bombs stored on the site, would come to public attention. The security concerns were many. 1. There were more than the authorized number of bombs on the sites. 2. Enemy countries would find this intelligence very interesting. 3. The local population would have been in uproar over the danger, not only of an accidental explosion, but also of radiation leakages, which would, or could, harm people, farm animals, and poison nearby farming land. Thus, we repeat, security was paramount, and so, whatever disturbed the security of the area, was considered very seriously indeed. We wish also to say that, at that time, the official attitude of both the British and American authorities, was that either UFOs did not exist, or, that they were not a threat to security, despite the fact that at least America had a number of downed craft, that they had recuperated from a number of countries, plus a few Ebens, either living or dead, and were actively back-engineering UFOs, sometimes with the help of Ebens. All this was kept strictly secret from the general public, and by and large, still is. Now, to look at the incidents. We will not mention names, nor will we become too involved with the actual events, because, as we said, the story, both in a general, and in a personal sense of the personnel involved, is readily available on the internet. We will try to describe if the events happened, or not. Obviously, a craft landed in Rendlesham Forest, at least once, and, obviously, an event happened in a nearby field. The question is, what was the provenance of the UFOs, and why were they there? This is where the story becomes difficult to unravel, because, as we said, the Akashic record does not record anything to do with non-living entities, or objects. Ebens, are robots, and so, are not living creatures. But, from what we have worked out, the craft that landed, was a scout ship. The mothership was in deep space at the time, although, it was seen on one occasion. It was seen as a huge, cigar-shaped object. It was an interdimensional craft. Both the mothership and the scout ship had been sent to investigate the large number of atomic weapons that were stockpiled in the bases, of which there were 2. The majority of the weapons were kept in the Woodbridge site. The provenance of the craft were those that we have described as human auric personality bundles. If you don't know to what we refer, please read our book on aliens that we gave you. These aliens, if we can thus refer to them, were, and are, deeply concerned by man incarnate, toying with nuclear matter. When a nuclear bomb is exploded, it not only causes incalculable harm to planet Earth, but, by the very nature of destroying atoms, which have auras, the act of destroying atoms affects dimensions, and causes great harm in all the dimensions also. Life must be kept in balance, and it is not in man's gift to destroy, randomly, atoms, which are part of the building blocks of life. Every time an atom is destroyed, if it were not replaced, the whole of existence would be affected, as each and every atom is essential to the balance of life. Thus, when an atomic bomb destroys atoms, God's archangels have to leap into action, and recuperate new atoms from the 8th dimension, to replace the destroyed ones. We thank God that the archangels are able to do this, because, if even one atom was destroyed, and not replaced, all life would cease. All is one, and every atom is an essential part of the fabric of life. To destroy even one atom, if it was not immediately replaced, would cause the oneness to be incomplete, and that would signal the demise of all life, both physical in the 6th dimension, and also in its auras, which are other areas of life, as important as physicality. So, the beings, which we refer to as personality bundles, regularly visit nuclear sites, and do certain acts to warn man not to explode the bombs. Sometimes, they shut down missile launching sites. Sometimes, they destroy the warheads. In this case, they appeared in the forest and in the skies, to warn man that the air bases were under observation. We will just say that the authorities today have been contacted, and the seriousness of destroying atoms has been explained to them. Thus, we hope, nuclear weapons will never be used. On the odd occasion, that a country is unwise enough to defy the advice given, action is immediately taken to destroy the missile. Now, it was mentioned that a binary code was transmitted to one of the soldiers. This was, in part, true. In fact, the code was impressed on his mind, slightly later than the date of the actual event, but was false information, given to conceal the identity of the ships. The secret services concerned with investigating the incidents were already aware of the provenance of the ships and their reason for being there. Certain drugs were also administered to some of the soldiers, in order to implant false memories. So, we had this strange cat and mouse game going on. Personality bundles, aliens, decided to visit the bases, and make the personnel aware that they, the aliens, were aware of the arsenal of nuclear weapons, stockpiled on the bases. The Christmas period was chosen to mark the occasion, and make it stand out more than a random date. At the same time, secret services were perfectly aware of the reasons the UFOs were there, but did all they could to cover up the event. That is why, even today, people scratch their heads, and wonder what happened at the end of 1980. Mention was made of a mist in a field. This was etheric matter, rather like ectoplasm, that was formed, so that certain orbs could transform their energy from purely astral matter to physical matter. An orb is always an intelligence. Thus, the orbs were astral beings, observing what was going on. We have not got involved with the events much, except to give you an overview, describe the provenance of the visitors, and the reason for their presence. They were there to warn man of the dangers of detonating atomic bombs, and to warn them that such behavior will not be tolerated.
Thank you for watching this video lesson. Please visit www.thegreatwhitebrotherhood.org for more lessons and free downloadable books.